Well, Rachel, you've decided to hang the gloves up. Was it a tough decision?
It was. It was a tough decision. It's something I've kind of mulled over in the last few months since the end of last season. But to be honest, it is something I've considered for the last 18 months or so. It's simply down to the fact that the amount the pain that my knees in, my back's in throughout the course of a season, and kind of weighing up really how long I can kind of go on with that sort of consequence after every single training session. So yeah, it's a tough decision. It's an emotional decision, but one that I think now is a good time to do so.
Is it disappointing then in a way to end your career with a disappointing season with Everton?
More than anything, I think that's the hardest thing, is that I almost feel like people may think that it's due to the fact that Everton got relegated, and it definitely hasn't. As sort of my close friends and my husband will sort of testament to, I have been considering this for quite a long time, and it's not something that has swayed my decision one way or another. It's purely a consequence of what I've kind of gone through physically, probably the last couple of years, to be honest. So no, WSL2 didn't scare me, it didn't put me off at all, so it's nothing to do with that.
Plenty of highlights though, with your time with the Blues.
Yeah, wow, I mean, winning the FA Cup, definitely, winning League Cups, but winning the FA Cup was definitely a massive highlight for me. Playing Champions League football, I do feel like I've achieved a lot in women's football in general, but here at Everton, we've won silverware, which has been fantastic, and really kind of what you play football for is to try and win things. So I've been part of an Everton team that have in highs and in lows, where the landscape of women's football has completely changed in the 11 years I've been here at the club. And I hope that Everton continue to evolve, and maybe relegation is that sort of proverbial kick up the backside that we needed as a club to really catapult ourselves into a club that goes back into WSL 1 and then remains in WSL 1 and then ultimately becomes a team that competes for honours again in WSL 1. But there are a lot of changes which I know have been talked about, but need to be acted upon and initiated for that to happen. But that's my wish, is that Everton do get themselves back into that real competitive aspects of women's football right at the very top.
You've also worked with some memorable people, the likes of Mo Marley, Andy, and plenty of players that are still your friends, I would imagine.
Yeah, when I first came to the club, it was Mo Marley who brought me here to the club. Got me a scholarship at John Moores University so that I could do my teaching qualification alongside playing for the club. So, massive sort of thanks, which I'm sure there'll be a big list of thanks to various people. But Mo Marley was certainly kind of sort of one of my idols growing up, and certainly coming in as a senior player. When I first started playing senior football, when I was very young, was at Accrington Stanley. But then I first came into the top league of football and played for Liverpool. I actually found one of the first programmes of a game I played in for Liverpool against Everton, and Mo Marley's name was on the team sheet. So we played against each other on that day, and went on to play with each other at England. So she has been a massive part of Everton Football Club. And has been a massive part of my development, along with a whole list of players' development over the years. So she's, someone who's been highly influential in my career, certainly in the early days of my career. So yeah, massive thanks to Mo. Football has changed. Mo's been a part of that development. I know she's international, working with the 19s at the moment. But I'd love to see a big character like Mo come back into WSL football, because I think she deserves the chance at the professional game, which is where it is at now. So I do hope, whether it's at Everton, in the future, or whether she may change her allegiance and go elsewhere. But I'd love to see Mo at the very, very top in the professional level.
Your international exploits are extensive as well, obviously with England, playing abroad. Good memories as well.
Oh, I mean, that's football for someone, I guess, of my era, and along with, you know, some of my friends who you mentioned, like Jodie Handley, very sort of experienced captain of Everton, you know, Lindsay Johnson, who's still playing. We've experienced so much in football. It's not reaped us massive financial rewards, but it's given us experiences that we'll never forget. For myself, I went out to the US and went on a sports scholarship out there to play football. So got, you know, free education, played football, lived abroad for 5 years. I've played professionally out in Iceland, in other countries. I've played Champions League and gone to some real random places, Lithuania, Estonia. With England, I've gone, you know, played in World Cups in China, in Germany, in Euros in Finland, and literally have been all over the world. Was fortunate that just even a few weeks ago was asked by Arsenal to be kind of loaned to them to go and play in an invitational tournament in Japan. I'd never been to Japan before, so it just shows you that, you know, I've always pursued football because I've loved it, not because it's given me any particular financial incentives or rewards. But the rewards that I have had have been life-forming, I would say, life-changing. You know, football, not just the playing side of it, but the whole kind of 360-degree angle of football is what has kind of really formed who I am. The opportunity to go to America, it really gave me a whole other perspective of how people live, different cultures. And, you know, I do feel a kind of more rounded person for it. So that aspect, that even off the pitch aspect of the opportunities that football has given me, really have kind of have sort of formed who I am.
And if that wasn't enough, you're also an Olympian.
Forgot about that, didn't I? I mean, that was, you know, winning the FA Cup with Everton domestically was definitely a highlight. A highlight of my football career overall, I would have to say, would be being a part of that Team GB in 2012. You know, 18 girls got to live that dream of being the first ever women's GB football team. I hope not, but maybe the only ever women's football GB team. You know, I desperately hope, because the experiences I've had and that small squad of 18 had, it was an unbelievable experience, and I do hope that other girls get to experience, you know, what we did in the next Olympics and Olympics moving forwards. But, you know, being part of a multi-sports tournament I'd never done before, living in the Olympic Village was just unreal. The sort of superstar status that was ultimately given to you as an Olympian was just fascinating, really, to see kind of how Olympians, how you know, National Lottery funded athletes live on a day-to-day basis was unbelievable and fascinating. And it really gave you kind of the hunger to want to go back and do it again and again and again. I mean, it blows World Cups and European Championships out of the water completely. Every single last experience from there will really live with me forever. You know, I remember walking in, and anyone you speak to knows I don't remember anything, but I remember walking into the Olympic Village with the men's GB football team and the women's GB football team together, and being introduced by Dame Kelly Holmes to the Olympic Village. And she said, from this point forwards, you are and always will be an Olympian. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, I never thought about it like that. I never kind of considered really what, you know, I'd been picked in the team, and that was awesome. But I never really considered what elite club I was actually joining. So to hear that and for that to resonate so much in me, that's kind of something is probably one of my proudest moments in sport. So yeah, to be an Olympian was a real kind of unparalleled experience. And I do hope that other girls get the chance to step in my shoes.
Let's talk about the future. Thankfully, your association with Everton Football Club is not ending just yet, is it?
It's something we're in new territory. It's never been done before, in that we've had former players stay at the club in some capacity, in a non-playing capacity. And I'm really proud to say that for myself, that's been offered to me by Andy Spence and by Everton Football Club. What the exact role is going to be, we're not entirely sure, and that's something that over the next few weeks will be discussed. But I've worked at Everton in the community department for 7 years previously, as well as having played for Everton for 11 years. So even though I'm from Burnley and that's my original roots, I do have a massive affinity with Everton Football Club. And I would love nothing more than to stay here in some capacity and hopefully continue the rise back to the status we want Everton ladies to be, to sort of stay on that, hopefully on that roller coaster, but now moving in the right direction. And anything I can do with my experience both on the pitch and off the pitch, I'd just love to give that back to the club that's given me so much. So yeah, hopefully in some capacity I'll be staying at the club. So watch this space.